In a moment, we'll start collecting clues as to the whys, the whats, and the wheres.
And I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Can you hear that? We will not end the nightmare, we'll only explain it.
Tonight, we'll dive into the latest UFO news after a new whistleblower has broken his cover with claims that he was part of a U.S. covert crash retrieval team. What's probably most shocking is that there's video proof to back his claim. I'm your host, Fiasco Jones. Welcome to OddNormal's What in the Weird, the only show that promises not to broadcast advertisements into your brain while you sleep. I'm joined by my co-host, Cold Coffee, who has just completed his course in miracles and can now do just about everything he could before, only now with God rays. Welcome to the first episode 001, Cold Coffee. Folks who have clearly know who the hell I am, they're wondering, who are you? Who are you? Where'd you come from?
Who am I indeed? Well, you know, they recently found my egg and I had slowly crept out. You know, I was like, I've come to this planet and I want to find some place where I could talk about some odd shit, but in a normal manner. And I was drawn to this show, and here I am.
Like a moth to the light.
Like a moth to the light. No, but seriously, my day-to-day is typically covering MMA. That's the bubble I live in. But, you know, I think I've always had a love for the bizarre. And I think that's probably why I became friends with you, because I said, man, if there's anybody that knows bizarre, it's this guy right here, you know. So I'm glad that you decided to bring the show back. You know, there was a point where I had heard you do this show before, and you had great guests and great co-hosts before, and then it just kind of dropped off. And I said, what happened? I said, Fiasco, are you still doing OddNormal? Like, what's going on? And you said, funny that you mentioned that. I was thinking about bringing it back out, and I was like, well, can I come along for the ride? And you're letting me come along for the ride.
We're gonna really test your knowledge of the weird and see what happens.
Oh, I thought I just had to be weird to be on the show.
No, you gotta.
I have to actually.
You gotta know some stuff. So
all right, well, I'll see you later. I'll see you.
This is your
I'm signing off.
You can't quit your tryouts. This is it. You've got to go. With that, want to hear something strange?
I do.
News Nation was the first to bring you this story.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
And now, for the first time anywhere, a military veteran comes forward to say he was part of that program, with video to prove it.
My work has included the recovery of downed UAP of non-human origin.
Revealing how he retrieved alien craft.
What did you see? I saw an egg.
Eggs from space. The big news in UFO circles is the latest claim by a guy named Jake Barber, who says he was part of a UAP retrieval team. We can review the broadcast from News Nation and dig deeper into what were his claims and what's going on behind this story. So, Cold Coffee, like you said, I made you dig into this, watch this. What were some of your first takeaways?
Well, I thought the story was interesting. I mean, I mean, a lot of it sounds plausible. I mean, like, it sounds like every, you know, cool alien sort of story you've ever heard of anybody that worked on like Area 51. They were recruited for one particular job, but then they excelled. And then next thing you know, they're asked to take part in another job, you know? So, I mean, that sounds plausible that, yeah, the guy could have been a mechanic. And then they're like, hey, you know, you're also a pilot. We think you could do this great job. You know, I mean, it seemed fine. I mean, it seemed plausible. The fact that they're starting to have like guys from his other like special forces group or whatever operating group that they had were coming out and saying something. I was like, okay, it's not just one guy. It's four other guys or multiple guys that are coming out and saying stuff. I thought that gave them credibility. But then I watched the video, and as a video guy, all I found myself was just trying to pick apart things I saw in the videos.
Right.
You know, but we've been hearing, I think, most of our lives, random stories of pilots engaging with vehicles up in the sky, you know? So like to hear another one like this and to have more people that come out and are saying that it's decently credible, I mean, I'm just certainly open to the idea of it,
Right.
certainly. I mean, it's not like it's the first time somebody said, we've seen something, like, trust me, we've seen something. Now we have footage. Like, there's been footage for years and years kind of eking its way out. So, I mean, this is just kind of unique because now some of these cats are going out and trying to, speak in front of, the lawmakers and stuff, like saying like, when were you guys going to finally say something? It's not just somebody sitting in their room saying like, the truth is out there, blah, blah, blah. These guys are actually lobbying the people that have power and actually can say something about it. So it's kind of unique. I like the momentum,
And
that
on
seems
top
to
of
be
that,
building.
the Pentagon is actually coming out and saying, some of what they're saying is real. We're not going to tell you what exactly, but some of it's real. So it's like, what?
Which is kind of, which is kind of cool. I mean, because we've heard of stories, what was it, Project Blue Book, and some of these stories and things over the years that the government says, oh, well, we looked into it, but we just didn't see anything. And so the book is closed. So to hear them say like, well, maybe there's something going on.
And let's digging into what Jake Barber says. There's a lot of dimensions to his claims. So one, his background, he claims to be, and I don't think is in dispute, that he was a Air Force mechanic, part of this elite combat control unit. You're kind of a military guy.
Yeah, that he got invited to be a combat controller, which is like him getting asked to jump into like an elite group of operators. Like they don't just go to mechanics and say, hey, mechanic guy, we think you're going to be a perfect operator for this. Right. But the fact that he was able to then pilot, then his skill set jumps up quite a bit. To have a mechanic that's able to operate a vehicle, should you go into scenarios where it's less than idea, the weather could be bad. The terrain could be bad. And say if something happens to your vehicle, if you're able to fix said vehicle, your value goes through the absolute roof. So, I mean, it certainly makes a lot of sense that he could have presented a very viable target for something that said, hey, if we're going to do these sort of things, you definitely have our skill set, Right. So it's certainly plausible.
Yeah. And so because of that skill set, because of that unique set of skills he has, he says he was invited to this ultra covert crash retrieval team, which he says like most of it was, clearly US made type stuff. But then then things got weird, and some of it he started realizing, some of this is not human made. And then he further goes on to basically say that also there's another dimension to it. He calls it the psionics group. These there's a spiritual component, a psychic component.
Psychics,
and that now he's working on essentially communicating with these UFOs. So let's parse that out. Kind of like,
but then also don't forget the big one, even outside the psychics, the interaction that he had that one particular flight where he felt like something entered into his body and then it's still with him today,
right?
Whatever that might be.
And I have to say, listening to his claims right now, I hear a lot of echoes from what's happening right now in the UFO world. I showed you that book earlier. It talks about that, but there's another one. That guy named Chris Bledsoe. He wrote a book called UFO of God, and he talks about having that the UFOs he sees and he can summon, he communicates with, have a spiritual component. I think he calls it the White Lady, and it is again like interacts with him. He communicates with it, and he feels like it protects him. So there's that echo of that too.
Yeah.
And then you also have Stephen Greer, who I'll admit I don't know a ton about Stephen Greer's stuff. I know he's big on disclosure. He has a documentary called Disclosure, I think a book as well. And but one of the big things he does, and it gets him a lot of criticism from some people in the UFO world, is that he believes that you can train yourself to summon aliens or UFOs, UAP, and I don't know if you can communicate with them either. He has these like boat cruises and stuff like that he offers for like thousands of dollars, and that's the weird like kind of like grifter part side of the thing.
Can we summon his boats without his knowledge?
So it is interesting that Barber's claims are meshing. But I'll get into like Greer and Barber later. But so let's just have him kind of set the stage for kind of what he started out as.
A lot of the work we did was on what I call the range, where the U.S. government and its private partners use to test all kinds of things, weapon systems and resilience to weapon systems of certain craft. The majority of what we see and do is explainable and is ordinary. But one of those that would raise your eyebrow is more of the transmedium characteristics, because things would come from the ground, like from the earth, from a ridge, from a mountain, or could pass through.
That goes back to Lou Elizondo when he was talking about, or even just the Tic Tac type stuff back in 2017, when David Fravor was observing the Tic Tac, and he said originally it appeared to be kind of like hovering above the ocean, but other people have said that they've seen these craft come straight from the ocean without, like, I mean, you know, it as if it were nothing, like it was just the same as the air around it. And now he's claiming that these transmedium objects are coming out of the ridges, the actual physical, like the mountains, which is, it adds a new dimension to it. It does make me wonder, one, where's the range? I'm thinking it's Area 51. I
mean, all I could think of was like, it's out in the Nevada desert somewhere. I was like, the range. I mean, it's like, it has to be. I mean, like, where else in the U.S. could there be an area like what we have out there? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And
I was trying to figure out, maybe I could look this up, I don't know, but I was trying to look at at some of the shots from Ross Coulthard's video on News Nation, and trying to determine, like, what is that geography? Because some of it did not look like Nevada. In my head, I was thinking New Mexico or even Utah.
Yeah, because when I was watching that, I was like, is this B-roll or what? I was like, I'm not sure if they're trying to put, like, and say this is the actual footage for some of the stuff, because then it's just like, because there's the shot of the helicopter and you just see like a
tow hook or something.
Hook carrying something. I'm like, that could just be anything, you know. But yeah, I mean, but it definitely looked like it could have been out in the Arizona desert or the Nevada desert.
Yeah,
there was nothing that really sort of gave it away, but it was like there's nothing to really look at. It's just a bunch of nothing, which, you know, granted, in parts of the U.S., there's only a couple places that are that sort of remote feeling. And Nevada desert is one of the big ones.
It's honestly, what I find interesting is the Southwest has a characteristic of just being a weird place that a lot of this stuff happens. And then maybe because it's still wild and open, you know, like you look at the spaces between cities and it's hundreds of miles. And you think, well, if anything's going to exist here, this is kind of a safe land. This is wilderness, you know, in the truest sense. I mean, you get up to Canada and, you know, stuff like that. But the further east you go, you just get jam packed with town after town after town. There's no let up. And but out here, it's you have like miles of sky that these things could fly around in. So it kind of makes sense that, like, maybe some of the weird is still alive here. Maybe there is a sense of humanity has killed it and run it down, and so now it's just kind of like coalescing over here where it can still thrive. And that's assuming that this is like an animal of some sort, like a natural phenomenon and not a space creature, you know.
I mean, when you think about, like, especially when, like, some of these claims of, like, it's came out of mountains or it's came out of the water, I mean, just trying to put a plausible sort of, like, explanation, you know, when they tested a lot of the military weapons, even when they were testing the stealth bombers and stuff, I mean, it could be in new forms of camouflage that it just, you don't see it until enough light hits it that it actually reflects light back, that you can actually visibly see it. I mean, they could be working with paints, shapes, metals, and stuff that reflect light so that you can't actually see discernible shapes or colors. And maybe until it gets to a certain point or a certain velocity that you can actually see them.
So it appears to be coming out of
So it appears to be coming out of the things, but it's actually the camouflage system, you know, and that could be a still military something human craft. Now, when it gets to some of the movements, that's the part that people are like, these propulsion systems and things
the lack of any noticeable propulsion system.
That's it. They're like, it's kind of hard. Okay, I'll give you the camouflage, Cold Coffee, but there's no engine that we can see.
Right.
There's no
shape.
contrails. The shape doesn't make any sense.
And let's
there's
talk about the
nothing to
shape.
lift it, like
Right.
it doesn't, the physics doesn't add up to what we've been known to be able to fly, so
And
like no one thinks of an egg being like, if I'm going to design something to fly, I'm not going to build an egg-shaped vehicle unless, for some reason that's the perfect shape.
Or if like essentially like materials have no what a contacts in outside of the egg doesn't matter because you can just
because you're not
fly like, through anything.
Yeah, when we're building a plane, because to deal with wind resistance, if wind resist isn't an issue, then you could have a box. It doesn't even have to be whatever.
Christ, if a mountain doesn't matter, like it's like, okay, well then I guess nothing matters. So let's talk about this thing that he discovers on one of his missions.
I was a helicopter pilot, and I operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg. No engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up, so I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How large was the object?
I would say approximately 20 feet, plus or minus a little bit, about the size of a large SUV.
Did it have any seams?
No.
And it was pure white?
It was like pearly white, like a metallic pearly white, the best I could assess.
I want to kind of dig into shapes for a second because we get
you
a lot.
Want to dig into that crazy B-roll that looked like those were guys in a boat. They look like they were going through like a ship, a Navy ship or something.
Right, like room to room. Yeah. That's just B. That they just pulled
that
off
random
of
ass B-roll that they put.
Some stock footage. But like this is the thing is that there isn't that much consistency in the UAP phenomena. It's in New Jersey right now, we're talking about drones, and those are probably most likely 100% man-made. They have the navigation lights, but then there's the orbs, the plasmoids. And then, like I just said earlier, David Fravor saw Tic Tac. In Phoenix, there was the pyramid or the triangles over the Phoenix lights. And throughout the 90s, it was triangles.
Lots of triangles in the 90s. I do remember that.
Yeah. And so now we're moving to eggs. So apparently the phenomenon is shape agnostic. I don't know if that means anything, but it just seems
the egg beings wiped out the triangle beings, the war in space or something.
Honestly, like I feel like there's a huge industry designed to sell that idea that this kind of like constellation of aliens, and that each shape is designated
even
alien.
in the story where when Jake and the guys are talking about the psionic guy that comes out and he's calling a ship down, and all of a sudden another shape came to like interfere with it. So they right then played back into the thoughts of like there's these warring things out in space. You can't just have the one being come because then another one's going to come to interact with it. Or were they trying to say, they did try to say that was extraterrestrial as well, right? That wasn't like a human made.
Honestly, no, I don't think that's what they said. Well, I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later because they had an operation and like things happened. And
that's how they described it too. They're like, things happened.
Everyone's so cagey. They don't want to, like, okay, you're talking about UFOs, people. Let's just get around it. You're talking about UFOs. Let's say UFO. And you're talking to Ross Coulthard, and he just wants you to say, yeah, it was a goddamn UFO. It's aliens. Don't be cagey. You're there for a reason. And I should say that as of this recording, they just dropped the full 3-hour interview with Jake Barber. And so there's a lot that we didn't get around to actually like seeing. I think right now for this show, it's already a lot just to kind of like look at what are the claims and, who are the kind of principal players, and what are they saying? What are they trying to like? I feel like what are they trying to get us to do for them?
Yeah, and like is it adding anything new to the overall stories that have been out there over the years? Is this anything different that we haven't heard before?
Yeah. And so I guess let's talk about the video. So he talks about this egg, and then they show this video of this cable attached to what looks very much like an egg. I mean,
an egg wrapped in like a sushi wrap or something,
right?
Seaweed wrap.
Some kind of cradle, and it's really short. It's not exciting at all. It just shows it landing on placing on the ground. The egg then, once it meets contact with the ground, it just rolls ever so slightly to the right, and that's it. It cuts. It's shot in night vision, so it's all green. Can't really tell where it's shot. It appears to be dry desert.
Or a rug in somebody's house when they built the mechanism. I mean, when it touched down, I started the skeptic in my brain, the video guy, immediately started breaking down like, okay, what are we seeing here? We see the egg lay down. You see what looks like the rope still drift off to the side. Then my brain starts looking at, okay, what are the little distinct lines that go then? Are those the toe lines that I'm seeing? I'm like, would I not see those bend a little bit? They look very, very straight line, like they didn't actually put a bend in them. And then I think about the thing that was wrapped around the egg. If it was like a tarp or something, when the egg started rolling, shouldn't the tarp move? Shouldn't there be some sort of like rustling of the material that's holding, since the cord that laid it down is starting to go off to the side, but you don't see anything like that. It just still stays rolling, like there's nothing affecting, like it was almost tied around differently. And then I start looking at like the shadow. Would a shadow in night vision present itself like that? And where in fact it's getting stronger, where's the light source? Because it looks like the light source is from the other side, directionally putting that light. But it was very, very sharp, almost like if it was like laid down, like if there was a car or something putting a light against, because it was very, very harsh. Go back and look at the shadow right before it ends, and you look at the shadow after it's sort of rolled to the right, it becomes very, very dark and deep. And if there was a light, like it sort of looks like, that's underneath the bottom of the helicopter starts to drift to the left a little bit. And then I don't know if you would see that shadow darken like that. So I started trying to research what night vision shadows look like in night vision to try to get an idea of if that was real, if that presented its right thing. So I don't know, the video skeptic in me looking at what I saw there, I had more questions than just accepting like, okay, yes, it definitely looks like it is a egg-shaped something being towed by a thing. But once it hit the ground, I had more questions than just firm like, okay, yeah, that's footage. Yeah, that's definitely it. You know,
right.
I get, maybe that's just me. I wanted to start breaking down and figuring out how I would create this if I was creating this video. And there were just little things that I was like, so long story short, I'm not completely sold on the egg video. I'm skeptical of some of the shit that I saw on it.
The issues I have with it are, one, if this is like a goddamn fucking alien space egg, why are they just dropping it on the ground and letting it loll around, you know, aimlessly? It seems like there's little apparent care into its, like, I don't know. It just, I get that you have to take it from point A to point B. If it's like in the mountains, you're going to, helicopter sounds great. You know, it's nice and secure. But once it gets to its, you know, like drop location, maybe it's going to meet a truck.
Yeah. Why isn't it? Why isn't there a team on the ground to guide it to the ground to receive it? It's so many looming questions like that. Like even that is, I didn't even initially think about it, but you're absolutely correct. They're not just going to drop it if they think, oh, it might roll away, unless they were like, oh, darn, we didn't think how it's oval and it's going to roll away. But you would think something would receive.
Unless when some general that's done it like 100 times, like this is like his 100th egg. He's like, don't worry, motherfuckers. Just fucking drop it. You can't hurt it. You can't hurt it. But also, these motherfucking things are impossible to break.
Well, you know, and also too, if they are believing of the mind, if that was like the vehicle where he came upon and then he felt like he was something entered into his body and was affecting his mood. I don't know if that was the actual egg that did it or if it was a different vehicle. I felt like it was a different vehicle that caused that. But I could see if they were like, well, we've had potential of this happening before, so they didn't want to have people on the ground because they didn't want to put people in close proximity. I could see where that would be the case. But then if that was the case, put a structure, a box. How about a railroad transport thing, something to push it into.
You don't just true, a box.
Because you put it on the ground to then what? pick it back up and put it in something else? Do you have a forklift out there to put it in? Like, why are you just going to drop it back on the ground? It doesn't make it. It's more questions than, oh, yeah, obviously they would take it and just drop it.
Make contact with it with their hands.
Yeah, they're going to roll it. We're going to roll it back to the ranch.
And if that's
or
the case,
range,
because he also says in that I don't want to dig into too much, but he does. Why they probably wouldn't do that is because he claims that essentially his proximity to it, and he was about 100 feet away from it, I think is what he said, or is he closer?
So it was the egg that caused the being to come into him?
Well, we'll talk about the being in a second, but he did talk about like a radiation that almost killed him.
Okay.
And that was related.
Okay.
So
I could see that if there was the
idea
radiation
that there would be
thing.
a ground crew, they really wouldn't use a ground crew. But that also means they would want to directly put it into the transport vehicle.
Yeah.
Not just like, what? It's on the ground now. So overall, the video was underwhelming, and a lot of the internet community felt the same way. So we're just going to get their reaction.
It was one of the big ones.
Talk about the spirit.
All right, so last night, News Nation dropped some wild footage of what they're calling a UAP retrieval operation. And the star of the show is a 20-foot craft that looks like an egg.
Now, this footage was kind of a letdown.
And for obviously most people, that was very underwhelming. The picture, the video at least, I don't think is enough.
Here's the thing. While this News Nation special that was about to change humanity was airing, like mid-program, people online immediately were like, hey, that's an aerogel blimp, and I could see that.
But I must say, and I definitely can't deny, underwhelming is the understatement of the century.
I mean, just show us the real thing. Stop showing us these stupid videos that we can barely make out anyways. Just show us you have stuff. Just show us it.
I can't agree with the last guy more.
Just show us it.
Stop sending me clips. Stop sending me like 10-second clips. I want to see the whole thing. I want to see you walking up to it and knocking it out, with the hammer.
But they also set that premise. They're like, the person that took this video did it at extreme risk of their life, and that's why we could only give you this very small cryptic portion,
Except Jake Barber can go to News Nation and just broadcast the whole goddamn thing. It's just like one does not make sense. One is not like the other or whatever. These are either highly classified, like our nuclear secrets, which you don't hear lots of people going to news stations with and saying, hey, do you want to know the U.S. nuclear secrets? I'll tell you all about them. Not even in an oblique way. They don't talk about it. These people are saying, oh, yeah, no, I'm just blowing the whole whistle on this thing. But to a point. To a very respectable point, which
I'm not even going to tell you where the range is. I'm not even going to tell you where the range is.
I'm going to use these nicknames for places, and so you don't know exactly even where I'm talking about that area because I don't know.
And when you saw the clip of that where it showed again the tow line, I was like, let that be B-roll because I was like, bro, that looks like Nevada. It looks like a million spots out in Nevada. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on the video because I want to believe, I want to see the things, but it's just, when you look at it, you're just like, oh, and underwhelming is almost,
it's
being generous of a phrase, because it looks just fucking. It looks like a joke, man.
It doesn't look like anything. That's the thing, and because here's the thing, it could be an alien egg, or it could be nothing. It could just be some egg-shaped BS that a guy was hauling from point A to point B one night. He's just a commercial helicopter payload guy. I just made that job up, and it
could be a real sounding job.
Yeah, it's for some Easter celebration.
Payload guy.
Yeah, it's a giant ceramic egg or concrete egg. That's absurd, heavy concrete egg, and they're like, oh yeah, this is for the Easter thing. And one day he's looking down and he's like, that looks fucking weird. Let's take a little picture over here, put a little green hue on it. That's an egg. Okay, there's a lot of level of coordination there, but that you'd have to get into, like, hey Jake, I got this egg video. You want to tell a whole story about it? But either way, yeah. So yeah, the video's the video. Let's continue on with some of his claims. Like you said, he claims that he encountered a spiritual entity. So let's have him talk about it.
So as I get closer to this pick site, I start feeling odd. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song. And I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
was it loving?
It was loving. But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
had you ever had an experience like this before?
No, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense. And it wasn't like a soul, it was like a frequency that I was connected with. And whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as this sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And it's what's providing protection for me.
Well, oddly, a lot of people have said that same feeling comes after they've been pegged for the first time.
Really? All right.
But that feminine energy.
A sense of song?
Never mind. Don't look up pegging. Don't look. Whatever you do,
this
don't look up
audience
pegging.
knows what it is, and they're disgusted by you. They're just, or they're, they're just like.
I mean, the feminine entered it. I'm just saying that's the immediate image, and he felt loved and sad all at the same time.
Yes, and then he was
It
singing.
was a good run of this one episode that I was on the show.
There'll be some recasting for the next episode.
You didn't peg me for that comment, huh?
Lovely. I will say, moving on from your peg comments, that he again, like I said, Chris Bledsoe, his UFO of God type stuff. This sounds very, very similar to that, and it does. Yeah. I mean, I won't say coordination, but part of me kind of thinks that way. I guess it is the skeptic in me that says, okay, well, this guy clearly he's part of the community. He's reading it. He's spoken to some of the luminaries in the group. Like Lou Elizondo was in the video. If you don't know who Lou Elizondo is, he kind of was like of the modern era. He's the big kind of whistleblower, UFO whistleblower from like 2017. He was part of the Tom DeLonge's To the Stars Academy, and he basically said that we have these the aliens and the U.S. government and blah blah blah, and so he kind of broke it out. So Elizondo is talking to Jake Barber, plus these other guys that I don't know very well, like Fred Baker and John Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch. But another one is Gary Nolan. Gary Nolan's huge now. He was kind of first showed up in Diane Pasulka's first book, American Cosmic, also under a pseudonym. But now he's come out and he's hey, look at me. And so I sense there is a sense of coordination that folks are kind of adding so many of these different elements and maybe so as a sense of corroboration. This is of course seen in the worst light possible, is that they're collaborating and they're trying to create myths, and they're pulling from this, they're pulling from that, because to create an overall lore for this modern era of the UFO. And it is taking on more of a religious aspect than before. I just say in the 1950s, I would say you see hues of the 1950s contactee movement in all of this, but they're just taking out the human aliens, the Pleiadians or the Arcturans, or they're taking all those guys out, like Aura Reigns, this woman who wore a beret and she's beautiful and she screwed this guy, because she thought and then they would come out and say, no, nuclear weapons. They're removing that part because that part, they know that our community just we're just too savvy for that. Or we're just too sophisticated. We don't think that the aliens are going to come out and look exactly like us, or beautiful beatniks. And they're like, okay, now, it's over. You're not getting that anymore. So now it is a ethereal voice, a feeling or a frequency, as he says. And but it still kind of has the same idea of this kind of cosmic messenger. Again, very much like the contactees, where it was this message of like, we need peace, we need this. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. Or, you know, in the best light possible, you could just say that it's unified because it's a real phenomenon and it's actually happening this way. And that's why you need to pay attention to it, because these people are especially tuned to it and they can receive it. And that's why their message matters. And that's why their contact matters with these things, because they're like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you. And that's probably why the Pentagon is also like, well, yeah, we can't say no because it's, you know, this is really happening. There's enough information. And this is part of disclosure. Maybe that's all part of disclosure. These people are allowed to speak their minds about these phenomenon and slowly get the word out so that we don't have what they keep calling an ontological shock. That where aliens are real, you know, they're here now. They don't just turn the page. It's slowly like, oh, remember those? We've been leading into this season of the end of America, the end of the civilization. It's going to lead the season finales, aliens, and so they've been slowly like a drip, and so we won't have that ontological shock. We won't be like, you know, brains will break, because I think, but like you said before the show, you know, there's so many religions that people are attached to that have not really conformed to an alien overlord or even an alien intelligence mindset, so that those people might have a bit of some catching up to do. They might, you know, they might break a little bit. So
there's going to be some breaking for sure, you know, 100%. But, you know, and it, you know, you talk about how these collaboration, how these stories keep getting talking forward. Now you certainly see a lot of this always this feminine energy, this I felt loved, you know, whereas you think that if there was a superior beings and other stuff, you figured there would be some masculine dominance in there, but it's nice and warm and easy for people to say.
Would you?
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you know, you think about especially in our culture, you know, to go crazy, everybody's like, oh, you know, the men, the dominant people have the power and the wherewithal. But then, you know, if you tell a nice story about how, you know, I felt this being contacted me, but I felt the love, I felt the whatever, people want that. And so they'll share a story like that and they'll look for that in these instances. They want to find the happy, the whatever. If these guys were saying, you know, I was coming onto the pick site and I felt this immediate fucking dread where I was sweating and I was tears and I was like, I just got to get it because I felt for my life that I was going to die. People don't want to have those, experiences happen in their life if there was fear associated with them. But the more that people associate these things happening with these warm feelings, these feelings of like, I have a guardian watching over me, then you have more people that buy into these things, wanting them to be a part of their life, which keeps the folklore going, which keeps the story going. But you figure if there really are these beings that can traverse the universe like nothing, I would have a bit of an ego. If I could do that sort of thing, I'd be like, you guys you can't even go up to this moon that orbits your planet. You're having a hard time. Bro, I can get there and like there and back and like this.
You're assuming they're not space Buddhists and they've killed their ego. They've annihilated their ego. They are just beings of
that is certainly a nice, warm, fuzzy thought to think. Yes, they're all nice space Buddhists. But then when you hear then the story of them, if they were space Buddhists, why when the guy tapped into when they're doing their psionic operation and the guy was able to bring a being down, somebody else came and swooned in. That doesn't seem very Buddhist. That doesn't very space Buddhist.
Because I feel like that's because what you're saying is what I've been picking up is that these guys want their cake and they wanted to eat it too. They want to send this message of the loving space brothers or the lady in white, this godly feminine energy. But if you've read Elizondo's book, he wants to thread this needle of, oh, we need to make contact with these aliens because they're so important, but
we have to be prepared.
They could be evil. and they could be huge threats.
Yes.
So we have to, and you see that dynamic in this story as well, where it's like you have the space woman, the space spirit, and then later on they talk about these attacks. And we'll, again, I keep pushing that to but we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, there is that weird, bizarre dynamic of that it's almost inescapable.
Like, is it this or is it this? Or is it that you got to keep both sides of people that are paying attention to the story engaged? Because maybe if they get to the point where like, oh, I don't want to deal with no warm and fuzzy like aliens. I don't want no hippie aliens.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Honestly, on a marketing level, there is that's kind of the love and light folks. Yeah. There are the love and light folks that love this. It reassures them that the aliens are good, kind space brothers, space sisters. But then there's other people who are like, you'll find them more in the nuts and bolts. They're kind of John Lear. He had this, I think, called the dark hypothesis, or the dark side hypothesis, which basically he's one that really pushed a lot of what we saw in the X-Files, that lore that these aliens are coming to harvest us and force us to be alien hybrids and abducting us. Those people like that idea. They're attracted to this, the evil alien, and that we are, I would almost say like it's comparable to the zombie apocalypse. You know, you have these preppers out there. Some are just like prepping for the next disaster and they have like caches of food, and others are motivated because any day now the zombie apocalypse is going to start. And, you know, and that's what motivates them. And they get excited about it because they want to have this like violent, you know, dystopian future where they're the only survivors and they can kill zombies all day.
Yep.
And I feel like the dark side hypothesis is similar to that for UFOs. They want to believe that there are these gray goblin men from space that they can just gird themselves behind a steel door and just shoot forever and whatever. So that now they're like, how do we join these two? Yeah. How do we join love and light with the dark side? And we're kind of getting that. That's why, So it does seem kind of disconnected in that way. And let's see. And so, kind of going off on the love and light thing, but maybe the bridge between the two is his claim about psionics. And so he's taking the psychic stuff, the spiritual stuff, and essentially weaponizing it, because he says now not only has the government done this, but several private companies have figured out how to find these people who have psychic powers and can essentially, I don't know if they're hijacking these ships or what.
They certainly make it seem like it's on demand. Like you tip into these modes, because they made it sound like when they did this operation that contact was made between 4 and 5 minutes. Like that's pretty on demand.
Yeah. And I'm going to let him talk about kind of set up psionics right here. And maybe we'll just jump into the operation right after that.
There was certainly a desire to explore the idea that perhaps UAP could be summoned, could be communicated with, could be controlled, and could be persuaded to land, all by deploying people with psionic abilities.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
When a psionic operator engages with technology, how do they do it?
Using their mind, something like meditation.
There genuinely are people who can actually make a mental, spiritual connection to a technology.
Yes.
They're essentially like Knights Templars of psychic space. They're out there trying to make these religious assaults on the aliens, calling them, and then just, I guess, invading them and controlling them. To what end, though? I don't know, because it doesn't seem they have. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing once they like control it. Do they just fly around and go, whee? You know, like what's the point? Like, come here so I can just fly in you.
Yeah.
They're very. They don't explain that at all. I mean, you can imagine there might be some benefit if you could land it.
Yeah. To what point? So, okay, you make contact, and then what? You make them do a loop to loop. Then you're like, all right, thank you. Please go on your way.
Right. Sorry for hijacking you.
Yes.
You know, come back again when I call you, though. Like,
can you come to the range and leave your vehicle so we can pick it up and drop it off in another random spot in the desert.
Right. And maybe that's the point. Then, to hijack them, steal them, land them, and then take them apart. But then eventually, are the aliens dumb? Are they just sperm whales of interdimensional space that you can call them and then they show up, you take them and you bring them and you crack them open and then you steal all the jelly inside? Is that what they're essentially saying that these things are? That they're just really mindless, maybe highly evolved spiritual beings, again, like whales. That's what they are. They're dolphins. That's what they are. They're dolphins filled with space jelly, and they're calling them. They want the space jelly, so they bring them and they just scoop it out, and then they're like, sorry, little guy, and then they call another one. They get some more of the jelly.
Yep. It's
and
bizarre.
The jelly is what's keeping the evil Democrats alive. It's not adrenochrome. Okay, I went off on a little tangent. Either way, they describe one of their. I guess I'm gonna. Yeah, they describe one of their operations like this.
So we set out to do this operation. Right away, when the psionic asset went into meditation, he is reporting that he is engaged and in fact piloting a craft and is bringing it in.
So he's actually telepathically controlling alien technology?
Yes. As crazy as that sounds, that's exactly what we set out to do, what he reported we would do. And then things got a little weird. Right about I'd say 4 or 5 minutes into the operation, he goes, something's going on, something's wrong, get me out of here. And right about that time, our Overwatch Fred looked up to the sky and saw a disc, a classic lenticular shaped disc.
I mean, I feel like, how impotent are you as an Overwatch guy? You're like this highly trained, tier 1 operator type, and all you're doing is just sitting there and just looking at the sky, and you say, oh, look, it's a sphere. That's it. You can't fight it. You can't.
He's trained to notice the minutia, the little things,
right.
the little things.
You can have a 15-year-old, just doing a part-time to do that.
Bro, I see something coming. There's another spot in the sky, but again, to your point of what are they actually controlling? The space whales or the space dolphins. You said, when he says that he's in contact with technology. So yeah, you're like, okay, is the ship just there? Is he not taking over a being? He's just taking over the ship. Is the guy at the
ship the being?
Yeah, or is the guy at the controls like, why am I going to this fucking planet? I was trying to get to blurb blurb, and all of a sudden I'm going to this planet called Earth.
Is it in pain? Have you just taken over its mind? It's
Is he calling tech support? My vehicle is going on its own. What is going on? And I have this sense of loving, but also of sadness going on right now. Is that what they feel like when we do this?
Right? Is it? And you'd have to think, you were talking about a channel of communication. There has to be some kind of back and forth. Why do they not? Are they not able to mess with the psionics? I don't know. And also so you're flying around in this dude's ship. You just stole this guy's ship, and you're flying around. And then your radar goes off. Uh-oh. Is it the cops? Is that what he's like? Is it, has the space cops showed up? Get the hell out of there, you son of a bitch! Or is it a rival? Do we know it's a rival? They say they're kind of dog fighting.
Yeah, they're dog fighting. So he must have felt I guess to be able to maybe to take over a vehicle, you feel like you are part of the vehicle. And then when you have something like that, maybe, it's defense systems or something were going off. So he's like, oh, maybe he feels like he gets like a dread feeling. He's like, okay, something's going on. That's just like you said, the radar telling him that there's something incoming. Maybe.
And then he just chickens out.
He's like, I'm out.
See you
back
later,
on your
buddy.
way, dude. Figure it out. And the guy comes to, and he's like, where the fuck am I? And what's this dude behind me?
Shit, my six. Oh, God damn it.
Boom. Then he's gone.
And that's how we get a crash. We are creating the crashes.
Yes.
So they go, red team got another one. So
I forget, how did he phrase it when they crashed? He called it something. I have to go back and see. He had a term when they, would pick up things in the range. When a vehicle, I forget how he had some sort of phrase for but he didn't say crashed. It was some other word for when it, I guess crashed without it's control, but he had another phrase for it. I couldn't remember if you remember what it was. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that operation in itself, it just begs the question, like, what's the point? Interestingly, though, it says like a lot of what he's doing. So he's created this business called Skywatchers or Skywatch Technology. I'm not too sure what it is. There is a website that you can go, and I went ahead and like put myself in the invitation list to see what happens. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But again, another story part that I don't really want to get into because it was very Tom Clancy. It's the question of what's this all about? And there was this tangential story, and I felt very tangential, where he talks about searching for tough books. These armorized Panasonic laptops, and they're going all over the world or the mountains under the water. They have special data on them. I couldn't understand, like, wait, why are they getting in why is it in the mountains? Like, why is it in the water? Like, what? And I don't know. It was
so out of left field. It was just
Tom
like
Clancy. And at one point he says they got to a location like, oh shit, there's like bullet holes or something. There was a firefight. I think we're getting set up to be killed. Yeah. Because here's another thing. And it was in Lou Elizondo's books as well. And it's in several other books that a lot of this alien stuff, for whatever reason. So the US government takes it, and then they hand it off to private companies to reverse engineer so we can have like Kevlar. That's what the big thing Art Bell used to say. This is back in the day, is that's where all this technology comes from, is from aliens, Kevlar and like stealth coatings and this and that. And so that continues to this day. And now these private companies have people like Jake Barber like flying around trying to get their special alien technology, or not even the technology. Like they're not even going for craft in some of these cases. They're just going for these tough books, which honestly sounds like levels of a video game. Like, we're going to deploy you at the base of this hill, and you have to make your way up to here to get the tough book, and then we'll extract you, and then the mission's complete, and like you get 25 points, and we're going to rank you up to general.
But if the hard drive is missing, then we have to track it down, and then you somehow find the hard drive in the bottom of a lake.
Right, and it sounds like he's basically given like the loose plot points for his next novel. Yeah. Like, well, how does this fit into the? It's like, and because he doesn't know the data is, but the data is important. I'm like, okay, so that's your MacGuffin, is these tough books, and somehow does it relate to the egg stuff? It's like, yeah, maybe, sure, like, okay, all right, whatever. So I didn't really want to get into that, but I guess from that experience, for whatever that kind of contracting he was doing for these private companies who are also at war with each other, because these private companies, even though the U.S. government has given them some information, now I guess they've gone rogue, and now there's this shadow war between private companies who are killing each other and blah blah blah, and I don't know, it just seems out of control and doesn't make any sense. So he started his own company. This is the Skywatcher technology, Skywatch whatever, and that's what this operation was. Again, to what end? I don't know. He just goes out there to some random location and meditates and calls these ships in. Doesn't bring it down. He doesn't like, I don't know. I mean, again, what's the purpose? I don't know. But he says he's fully funded by VCs and the U.S. government. He claims that they sent the Skywatch team out recently to New Jersey to investigate the drones. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just left with a lot of questions. And did you also hear, I mean, we're kind of stepping away, but so as this story was kind of like, going, there was a new development. Are you aware of this?
I don't think so.
Oh, there you go.
Honestly, fucking Mork's been found in Antarctica. They've literally found an egg-shaped UFO UAP. What in the name?
Now, I don't know if this is real or not. I don't know if it's created with artificial intelligence, but this was posted this morning at 8:05.
Claiming that he was part of the retrieval team. He said this thing was metallic and seemed very ancient. And in close-up shots, you can see what looks like hieroglyphic-like symbols on it. And there was also this video of it being flown out.
This Antarctica egg situation just keeps getting so much deeper. And do you know what? I don't even care if it's real or fake anymore, dog, because this stuff is absolutely hilarious. I just dropped my tea on the floor.
As we await more information, the mystery surrounding this Antarctic phenomenon only grows deeper.
It only took enough time for it to just get wacky. I mean, it didn't even. I mean, it wasn't even like 48 hours. I think like immediately, like someone on 4chan's like, by the way, there's an Antarctic egg. And there was a coffin next to it, and there was a person inside that coffin. And so it's like, okay, it's getting wacky. Which
it's getting wacky.
Yeah, I kind of prefer the wackier side. Like I guess that's the dessert, you know, because a lot of what's happening in UAPs is getting real fucking serious. It's getting real, like, oh god, you know, this is these UAPs, we really gotta think about this. And meanwhile it's like, oh, but there's one in Antarctica too, and it's you know, woo, and I'm fine with that. I'm definitely down with a little bit of a dessert. Keep it coming. I mean, I'm not even gonna dig into the Antarctic stuff because I doubt it's fucking real. But yeah, you know, it's someone very enterprising jumping in on and everything and saying like, you know what, let's add a little bit of. That's
it. Just a typical your copycat sort of thing. You know, once one story's made, others are going to come out. You know, and it's funny as much as I was scrutinizing the video and saying like, oh, this looks questionable, this looks whatever. Somebody else is like, oh yeah, that's your version. Watch what I'm going to make. I'm going to make one even better, and I'm going to put a box next to it.
Yeah.
That was a box it was supposed to get put into on your site, but you know, even that one, they're like, you were so close to the box, but you had to put it right next to the box. Why not in the box?
And there was an airlift from Antarctica. I don't know, like whatever. I don't want to get too far into that one because it's like, I don't know, whatever. Because like, what was the team? Do they have like picnics? Like they go in caves every now and then?
Yeah,
like,
makes complete sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't just say it's the copycat. Those are the fanfics. That's part of the community. That's always been part of the community. Is you have the guy who's really serious that comes out and says, no, this is what's going on, and this guy's over here like, but what if? And they have a little fun. So right, so
it is fun. At the end of the day, it is fun. It's all fun. I mean, like, you know, the weirder and wackier the world is, the more fun the world is. You know, if it was all just what we see in our everyday, if this is all that exists out there, life's okay, but it'd be a lot cooler if you had a bunch of weird shit in there too. So, you know, keep it weird. Keep it
and
weird.
It keeps evolving. So I'm you know, I think that we'll probably have a regular UFO update on the show, you know, because like I said, this thing's just taking a life of its own. Everyone's talking about it. They keep commenting on like, oh, you know, like don't talk about this. In fact, here, this is Lou Elizondo kind of like running cover for it. Just saying like, you know, just calm down. Here you go.
You know, everybody's always wanting a new video or a new picture. And I keep telling people that's not what's going to bring disclosure. More and more whistleblowers coming forward. You know, people can poo-poo videos all day long. The bottom line is, are you a helicopter pilot? How do you know it's a Huey versus a Black Hawk or anything else? He was a contractor. I know some people are saying it's an aerostat balloon. It's not an aerostat balloon. People are saying all sorts of stuff. Now, I know a lot of people are already predisposed to try to find answers and solutions and say, well, you know, I didn't see the ground moving in dust, or, you know. Look, I've been in a lot of helicopters, and depending on the rotor wash, depending on which way the wind's blowing, sometimes the sand blows, sometimes it doesn't.
You know, I mean,
do you see that shadow? Look how deep and dark that shadow was and extending. If it's the vertical light above it, why is it showing like that? Unless there was something on the ground, but you don't see another light source for it.
Yeah, we'll never
I have
know.
more questions.
There's so many questions.
More questions than answers.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the Stephen Greer angle, and we won't because this is already running really late. But yeah, we're just gonna have to basically like put a pin in this. put a pin in this. We'll come back in like 4 weeks and see where we're at.
See what new updates and what other random eggs that they've found. The next one is going to be in the water. A submarine pilot's going to find an egg in somewhere in one of the oceans or the Gulf of America. They're going to find an egg, and then some UAV, some submersible is going to go and pull it up, and then that's going to be the next one. The next one's underwater. If we honestly if we start actually finding eggs, like monoliths in 2001, like under the ocean, or even if they just start popping up, I will start freaking out. Yeah. I will start. I'll be like, what? So the egg thing was like, we should really take that seriously. Oh shit! Our Antarctica one actually is legit. Like, we'll have the video of it like coming into like Los Angeles with the eggs like plastered onto the top of the deck. I'm like, oh yeah, that was real. And we found one in Turkey where the alleged site of Noah's Ark. That's on top of Mount Ararat. It was just a couple meters under the ground. It's been in there for centuries. A fucking white egg, space egg. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, fucking UFO or the submarine. It's like, oh yeah, we found one in the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Yep. Who knows how long it's been there? So yeah, that would be a great development. 4 weeks. I'm hoping we're coming back with. So folks, we're now at the 12 eggs. A full dozen. A full dozen.
All right, and with that, let's just wrap it up. I'm getting the cue, the what do you call it, the poll. So, all right. So, OddNormal's What in the Weird is a production of KTLU in association with Rotten Baby Media, and was edited on behalf of the CIA for their tireless effort to end the entire world. Our current social medias are up in the air. I did create a TikTok. There is an OddNormal TikTok right now, and I did finish the YouTube as well, where I will hopefully post all of this, some of this, whatever. We'll see. In the meantime, if you'd like to support the show, report all mysterious space eggs to TikTok, and I will collect them for a subsequent show. Thanks for listening. See the strange and live in wonder.
OddNormal.